Lux is one of the safest champions in solo queue, yet most players still manage to lose on her, not because she is weak, but because they play her the wrong way. In this guide, I'll show you Lux's most reliable combos, her strongest builds, and how to control fights so you can win games without ever forcing plays. Let's get into it. Let's start with what Lux actually brings to the table. Lux can quickly remove squishy targets when her abilities connect, making every mistake from the enemy extremely costly. One landed Q from range is often enough to secure a kill or force summoners, giving Lux constant threat even without full commits. Her shield lets her protect herself and teammates, survive burst, and turn fights that look lost into winning trades. Lux clears waves from range and controls space well, allowing her to lane safely against most matchups. Near towers or objectives, Lux excels at punishing overconfidence. Enemies who commit too hard often get rooted, shielded against, and burst down. She clears waves quickly and efficiently, giving her strong control over tempo, resets, and map pressure. When all of this comes together, Lux isn't about diving fights or forcing engages. She's a long-range control mage. She wins by deciding where enemies can and can't stand. Now let's look at things you need to watch out for. Lux has very low durability, so mistakes in positioning are punished quickly if she gets caught. She has no dashes or movement abilities, which makes spacing and vision control extremely important. Most of Lux's pressure comes from landing her abilities, and missing key skill shots removes a lot of her threat. Lux struggles to deal with high health, magic resistant champions who can walk through her damage. Without mobility or sustained damage, Lux is vulnerable in side lanes and prefers grouped play. Her crowd control is powerful when it hits, but it's dodgeable, especially against mobile champions. These weaknesses aren't fixed, they're solved through ability usage. So let's break down Lux's kit and the key tricks you can apply right away. This passive is why trading into Lux feels impossible if you don't respect it, and most players waste it completely. Whenever Lux hits an enemy with an ability, she marks them, and her next auto consumes that mark for bonus damage. The mistake is throwing spells without weaving autos, which removes most of Lux's lane pressure. After every Q or E in lane, step forward and auto once before backing off. That single auto is what actually wins the trade. This ability is what turns Lux from poke into a real kill threat. Lux fires a long-range root that can hit 2 targets and lock enemies in place for follow-up damage. The mistake is using Q randomly for poke and losing all pressure while it's on cooldown. Hold Q until the enemy commits to a last hit or movement. Landing it with intent is what guarantees follow-up damage. Stand behind a low health minion so the enemy feels safe, then last hit it and throw Q immediately. Because it binds 2 targets, they get caught out by the second snare. You can also land Q more reliably from Fog of War. Just sit outside the vision behind the river wall, wait for the enemy to walk up to the wave, and then throw it. Finally, you can bait reactions with your movement. Walk in one direction, then fire Q somewhere else. Most players track your champion first, not the skill shot. This ability decides whether Lux survives fights or dies instantly. Lux throws her wand out and back, shielding allies it passes through on both directions. The mistake is using W too late or only hitting yourself instead of positioning for double shields. Cast it early and angle it through teammates. The shield matters most before damage lands, not after you're already low. Since there is a travel time, if you're running away from an enemy and taking damage, throw the shield in front of you, as it will take less time for the wand to return and activate the second part of the shield. This is Lux's main control tool, not just a damage spell. Lux places a zone that reveals an area, slows enemies, and can be detonated for damage. The mistake is detonating E instantly instead of using the slow and zone control first. Place E where the enemy wants to move and let the slow do the work before detonating. The pressure comes from the zone, not the damage. Use E for vision. Throw it over walls or in brushes to scout enemies or check objectives. It lingers long enough that you can safely see what's happening without face checking. The slow is crucial for kiting and escaping. If you're being chased, place E in front of the enemy and wait. Detonate it only when they're about to walk through the edge. This ultimate is why Lux can decide fights from screens away. Lux fires a massive global laser that deals heavy damage in a line after a brief delay. The mistake is saving R only for kills instead of using it proactively to swing fights and objectives. Use R to chunk enemies or control space around fights and objectives. Forcing players out is often more valuable than finishing a kill. Even though it's a great sniping tool, if you ever have the chance to hit 2 or more enemies in a teamfight, position yourself to hit as many enemies as possible for massive AoE damage. Tight areas are perfect as enemies have no chance to dodge the thick skill shot. Because of its range, always watch the map. You don't need to gank a lane to impact it. Stepping out of your lane is often enough to snipe low HP enemies or help fights across the map. You want to max E first as it's your main wave clear and pressure tool. Max Q second for more damage and pick potential. Max W last since it's mostly utility. Level R whenever it's available. Now that you understand Lux's kit, let's put it together. These combos are about clean burst and efficient passive usage. Main trade combo. Q into E into auto attack into E into auto attack. If you land Q, place E on top of them and auto once to consume the first passive mark. Then detonate E to apply a second mark and auto again. This is Lux's most reliable trade pattern. Long range combo. Q into E into ult into E. This is your safest damage combo. You do high burst from range without needing to walk up for autos, making it ideal in fights or when you don't want to overcommit. All in combo. Q into auto, into E into R into auto. This is Lux's maximum damage combo. You walk up for autos to fully use your passive, then finish with your ultimate. Only use this when it's safe to step forward. A quick Q flash mention. Casting Q before flashing makes it faster and harder to react than flash into Q. Once it lands, you can follow up with the rest of your standard combos. These are your core combos. Lock them in. Here's the exact room page you should be running on Lux. Arcane Comment is the safest and most consistent choice in most games, while First Strike is better when you can reliably hit and play slow. Start with Doran's Ring and 2 HP pots. In lane, your main goal is to reach Lost Chapter as quickly as possible. If you need help dodging skill shots or surviving early pressure, you can grab early boots, but Lost Chapter is still the priority. Luden's Companion is your default mythic. It gives Lux everything she wants: burst damage, mana, and strong poke from range. If fights are constant all-ins, and your ultimate is deciding every engage, Malignance is the only real alternative, otherwise stick to Luden's. From there, Storm Surge is your main follow-up for burst and pick potential. Because Lux can play safely from range, she's one of the easiest champions to stack Magi's on without risking deaths. Horizon Focus is a strong option for extra damage and vision control from long range. Rabadon's Death Cap massively boosts your damage once you're ahead or hitting mid-game. Zhonya's Hourglass is your main defensive item. Get your damage out, then use Zhonya's to stay alive in fights. Void Staff is your answer to magic resist and tankier champions. You can also consider Shadow Flame for extra burst against healthier targets. Sorcerer's Shoes every game. Lux benefits too much from magic penetration to justify anything else. Barrier is extremely strong on Lux. It pairs well with your shield, lets you bait enemies, and helps you survive burst without needing to overcommit. Teleport is an option in harder lanes or games where you need safer map play. Ignite is only for confident matchups. It gives kill pressure, but requires you to play closer than Lux usually wants to. Lux usually starts E for lane control, but if your team invades, Q is extremely strong. Landing one route early almost guarantees a kill. That's the only time you change it. In lane, Lux priority is safety and wave control. Use your range to thin waves and poke, but avoid forcing trades. Holding Q defensively keeps you safe from ganks and all-ins. If your opponent roams and is dangerous to follow, push the wave instead. Deny CS, pressure plates, and force them to lose something for leaving. Once you unlock your ultimate, Lux gains pressure without needing to commit. You can punish mistakes and influence fights just by having R available. Patience matters more than aggression. In mid-game, Lux should group, not side lane. Clear waves safely, then play with your team around vision and choke points. In fights, your role is zone control and punishment. Use E to deny space, use Q to catch overextensions, and shield early before damage lands. Forcing enemies low or out of position is already winning. Late game, Lux becomes a true long-range control mage. Stay disciplined, one catch can decide the game, but one mistake can end it. Lux is one of the safest mid laners in the game. No matter the matchup, your baseline win condition is the same. Play safe, wave clear, and don't die. You don't need to win lane to be useful. Against immobile or short range champions, Lux can poke freely and control the wave. Use E to harass, look for autos when it's safe, and punish anyone who walks up carelessly. These lanes let you pressure without risk, but never overstep just to force damage. Most matchups come down to skill shots and spacing. Whoever lands more abilities and dodges better usually controls the lane. Play slow, keep the wave manageable, and don't throw Q unless you see a real opportunity. Consistency matters more than aggression here. High mobility champions punish mistakes hard. If you miss abilities or step too far forward, they can all-in you immediately. In these lanes, safety comes first. Use E to thin waves from range instead of forcing poke. Hold Q defensively to stop engages, and use W to tank minion damage when needed so you can keep the wave close to your tower and farm safely. If the lane feels dangerous, don't fight it. Let the wave sit near your tower, stay patient, and scale. Lux loses nothing by playing slow. At the end of the day, Lux doesn't need to win lane, she just needs to reach mid-game cleanly. Everything you've learned in this guide also applies to two other roles, support and AP bot carry. Lux works extremely well as a support because her range, poke, and pick potential translate directly to the bot lane. You can usually stick with Arcane Comment for consistent poke, but Dark Harvest is a strong option when you're playing with an aggressive ADC and expect lots of skirmishes. For summoner spells, Heal is very efficient. It helps both you and your ADC survive trades. Ignite is only for confident lanes where you're looking to snowball early. Your job as support Lux is the same: poke, control space, and look for picks without overcommitting. Lux can also be played as an AP carry in bot lane, but this is situational. I only recommend it when your team already has strong AD damage in other roles. If your team is too AP heavy, you'll struggle to deal with magic resist later on. When the conditions are right, Lux plays the lane the same way: safe wave clear, long range pressure, and punishing mistakes. That's everything you need to start winning on Lux. Not by trying to 1v5, but by playing safe, scaling cleanly, and letting enemies make the mistake. If this helped, consider subscribing. I'm Zeus, and I'll see you in the next one.